The Titanic did not disappear into silence that night. For over an hour, it fired distress rockets into the sky, not into empty darkness. Another ship was watching. Someone saw the rockets. Someone reported them. Someone made a decision. And because of that decision, the rescue never came. Tonight, we reconstruct that decision. April 14th, 1912, North Atlantic Ocean. The night was unusually calm. No wind, no waves, perfect visibility, and perfect danger. Earlier that day, multiple ice warnings had already reached Titanic's bridge. Other ships slowed down. Some even stopped for the night. But Titanic continued forward. At nearly full speed, at 11:40 p.m., everything changed. The ship struck the iceberg. At first, the damage did not seem catastrophic. Titanic remained stable. The lights were still on. The engines were slowing. But the ship was not sinking yet. Below deck, however, the situation was becoming clear. The iceberg had opened multiple sections of the hull. Water was rising. And within minutes, the officers understood something unthinkable. Titanic would not survive the night. Orders were given to prepare the distress signals. Shortly after midnight, the first rocket was fired. Then another and another. Bright white explosions, rising high above the dark Atlantic. They were not meant for the passengers. They were meant for any ship nearby. Out on the same ocean, that night was not empty. Less than 20 miles away, another ship had already stopped. The ice field ahead was too dense to continue safely, so the captain ordered the engines shut down, and the crew settled in for the night. Just after midnight, someone on deck noticed something unusual. A bright white flash, far across the horizon, then another. The officer on watch studied the distant lights, rockets, fired one after another into the sky. He reported it immediately. The message reached the bridge. The captain was informed. But from that distance, the situation did not look like an emergency. On Titanic, the wireless operators were sending distress calls continuously. CQD, then the newer signal, SOS, position, coordinates, urgent requests for assistance. The messages went out into the night, again and again, but on the nearby ship, the wireless room was dark. Earlier that evening, the wireless operator had shut down his set. He had worked a long shift handling routine passenger messages. With the ship stopped in the ice, there seemed to be nothing urgent left to hear, so he went to bed. When Titanic began calling for help, there was no one listening. The rockets were still being seen from the deck. Officers continued to report them to the bridge, but without radio confirmation, no one could be certain what they meant. Were they company signals, celebration rockets, a routine communication between ships? No distress message was received. No direct call for rescue ever arrived. As the rockets continued in the distance, the reports reached the captain once again. Another officer insisted the signals did not look normal, too frequent, too deliberate, too persistent to ignore. The captain stepped out into the cold night air and looked toward the distant lights himself. From where he stood, the ship on the horizon did not appear to be in immediate danger. There were no visible flames, no clear sign of distress, just occasional white flashes in the sky. The ice field around his own ship was dense. Moving at night through that ice could risk trapping both vessels, and without a radio message confirming an emergency, the situation remained uncertain, so the engines stayed off. The ship did not move. The rockets continued. Dawn came slowly over the North Atlantic. The ice field was still thick. The sea was still calm, but the distant ship was gone. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Ships often changed course during the night. Visibility at sea could be deceptive. Then, the wireless operator returned to his station. And the messages started coming in. Titanic had struck an iceberg. Titanic had called for help. Titanic had fired distress rockets for over an hour, and by the time rescue ships arrived, the ocean was empty. More than 1,000 people were already gone. The officers on the nearby ship began to understand what they had seen and what they had not done. In the years that followed, investigations tried to reconstruct that night. Testimonies were taken, logs were examined, distances were recalculated. The nearby ship had been closer than anyone first believed, close enough to see the rockets clearly, close enough that movement might have made a difference. But at sea, decisions are never made with perfect information. Officers interpret what they see. Captains weigh risk against uncertainty. Systems depend on people being awake, listening, and ready to act. That night in the North Atlantic, nothing failed all at once. Signals were seen, messages were sent, reports were delivered. But each small uncertainty delayed the next decision, and by the time the full picture became clear, the silence on the horizon was already permanent. History remembers the sinking of Titanic, but the real story is how close help actually was.